Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. The phone number for you is 201-939-4513, or hashtag Giants Chat, or send us an email at bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. I haven't checked the email in a week or so I'll give that a look over the course of the show, and we will see if anybody sends anything interesting in. So give us a call. Paul, I haven't had a chance to talk to you. How was your Christmas?
Yeah, doing okay, John. Good holiday. Hope the same for you.
Yep.
Both of us were working, of course. I think one of the best things I can say about this week is that last year at this time it was 29 degrees out. And obviously at this time of year there's always the threat of snow. And with the rain we've had here in the New York area the last couple of days, I'm glad that it's not in the 20s because this snow would have been nasty.
Would have been a lot of snow. No question about
Big
it.
time.
But it's been wet. It's been damp. It's been nasty outside, too.
Dry Sunday,
Don't love
though.
this. It's supposed to be nice on Sunday. I think temperatures in the low 40s, right? Something like that, low to mid 40s.
Yep.
So it should be a pretty good day for football. And obviously, you know, Matthew Stafford, as someone now, I understand it was a dome, but as someone in Detroit, but as someone that played in the AFC North and the NFC North part of me, Matthew Stafford's no stranger to cold weather. So I don't expect the temperatures to be an issue for him on Sunday.
No. I mean, obviously Detroit and when he had road games in Minnesota would have been inside. But he's played some nasty games.
Chicago
too.
and Green Bay can get cold?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. So he has certainly some experience in those things. I'll make sure that I do my research on that before the pregame show and let you know, what his temperature acumen is or acclimation point is. Although it's not going to be a problem because it's going to be in 40s. So really, maybe it's not even relevant.
No.
Right.
So again, I think
I won't do that research.
that is not that. So in other words, that is not going to be an issue.
No.
We got into this a little bit, Madeline, yesterday, but we can kind of go full in preview here on Giants and Rams, Paul. And I think I said this on the show yesterday. I don't remember who I say to who anymore. But if you today put the Rams on a neutral field against Philadelphia, the Rams might be the favorite in that game. Like, it's not out of the question the way the two teams have played over the last month and a half.
I was going to say not 2 months ago.
No. But they don't base that stuff on what happened 2 months ago. They base that stuff on what happened in the last 6 weeks.
You're playing now. And Wink Martindale very eloquently expressed it right now, this morning. The way that Stafford's playing, they've won 5 of the last 6. And both he and Dable yesterday basically said that Stafford is playing as well as any quarterback could play. Wink actually used those 3-letter abbreviation, Hall of Fame level, in terms of the streak that Stafford is on right now.
Well, I said it yesterday. If his overall numbers were better, he should be an MVP candidate. He should be. Let me put it this way. He's playing at the level of someone that should be an
right
MVP
now he
candidate.
is.
Correct.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that right now. And with those 2 receivers, oh, man, and the running back, I mean, they've got many ways to hurt you. See, that's one of the reasons why, and folks, we can get into this debate later. John, you and I have not had conversation about the Giants quarterback situation, but I'm going to bring this up right now because I've had a lot of people come after me and say, well, how could the Giants pick Tyrod Taylor for this game? I honestly believe, and I'm reaching here a little, but I'm trying to read the tea leaves. The way that Dable and Wink Martindale talked about this Rams offense, I think the Giants believe they're going to need some explosive plays, and big-time points to be competitive in this game. They're not holding the Rams to 20.
Well, in
it's
fairness,
not happening.
I think you also needed those last week, too.
Well, yeah, but I think what has happened is, what if you look at the 2 quarterbacks, all right, never mind the experience factor. We understand all of that. One of the biggest differences between Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito is that Tyrod Taylor throws a much better deep ball. There's little doubt about that. His deep ball is a better deep ball than Tommy DeVito's. They're going to need...
And heck, we had that conversation with Tyrod and Daniel even, too. We had that conversation earlier in the year.
Tyrod throws a really nice one.
Really nice
He lets that ball go on the bomb.
Down the sideline, he's very accurate.
He's very good.
Balls, 100%.
I think the Giants truly believe that against this team, I think they had more confidence against Philly. I think they thought that they could slug it with them. And it obviously, they did as best as they could, and they came up short. I think they believe that they've got to be able to get more deep balls against this team because the Rams offense is right now clicking on all cylinders. And to compete with them, I think that's to me, I'm reading tea leaves. I'm not putting words in Coach's mouth. I'm telling you that's the gut feeling that I have, is that they think Tyrod has to loosen up the Rams and throw more deep stuff because they need to get into more of a track meet against this team.
Now, I would make the argument that wouldn't you like that guy any week? I mean, you always want to make explosive plays, right?
Well, here's the problem.
Because that's what gets you points. And we've been doing this a million times. You score points by making explosive plays.
Right. But the other side to that coin is that Tommy DeVito is signed for next year, and you want to give him every opportunity to learn, to progress, to take as many snaps as possible, to prove what he can and cannot do. We've had that conversation.
Yes.
And he's had 6 starts. It's possible the Giants have already determined, you know what? We now believe we've identified what Tommy DeVito is. Maybe they figured that out with 2 games to go, and they figured they don't need to see anymore. I personally, if it was me, and I want to stress this, folks, this is me. If I were the head coach, I would get Tommy DeVito more snaps these last 2 weeks, because I think the more snaps he gets, the more experience he has at seeing everything, the better off you're going to be with your evaluation, and the better off he's going to be, regardless of how he performs. You'll know more about him, and he'll know more about himself. So I would have preferred, if it were me, I would have started Tommy DeVito. However,
okay, go ahead. Finish your thought.
My asterisk is,
yes,
I can understand if I'm reading the tea leaves right, and Dable thinks they need more explosive plays this week because that's the way to beat the Rams, then I get it. Because the coach's primary responsibility every week to the guys in that locker room and to this organization is to try to win the game. And if he really believes that there's a 5% more chance that Taylor's bombs can help them win the game, then I understand his responsibility to make that move.
I think it's a lot simpler than that.
Okay, that's fine.
And I'll explain to you why I think it's simpler. I think they won 3 straight games with Tommy DeVito as the quarterback, right? Or 2 straight when they made the decision, right? They had won 2 straight. The kid was playing well. They had momentum. They win their 3rd straight. I just think you don't want to stop something that's going well. And then you get to the Saints game. Mm-hmm. He had the offense overall, it wasn't just him, had a poor half of football to start that game. But you don't want to pull the plug on somebody after just 2 quarters. You want to give him a little bit more lead time, give him a chance to work through some issues. Mm-hmm. Once you got to 6 quarters of basically 3 points, because those 6 points against New Orleans only became because of defensive penalties extending the drives, and then you got the 3 versus Philly. I think they were like, look, we're trying to win games here. The offense needs to score points, and we think Tyrod gives us a better chance based on how these last 6 quarters have gone. I honestly think it's that simple of a calculation to me. That will be my guess.
See, Coach is not delving into the background of his decision, so we're all left guessing.
And neither is Kafka.
No, he defers to Coach.
Neither is Tyrod. Neither is Tommy.
Which is great.
Yes. Which is fine, by the way.
Yeah, sure it is.
That's their
prerogative. It is. Again, and folks, I want to make this clear. I don't think there's a wrong decision here. I think you could make the logic to start DeVito, and I think you could make logic to start Taylor.
Totally agree with both.
And the good news is, because the Giants are not involved in a playoff situation, live or die, they have the opportunity to do that.
Yep.
If a playoff spot was still on the line, there would be a right and a wrong decision, because now there's so much impact that's involved in it. You have to put the playoff possibility into the equation. And now you have to consider that too.
Now, that technically was the formula 3 games ago when they initially made the first decision.
But it's not today.
Right.
It's not today. And I want to add one other thing. If you looked at the game last week against Philadelphia, and somebody told me, I did not hear the show yesterday.
So what did DeVito finish as a starter? 3-3?
Yes.
He started 6 games, right? Yeah,
yes, through the 6 games he was 3-3. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody told me they heard you yesterday say something.
What did I say?
And if you did, I think it's very observant on your part, and I would agree with you 1,000%.
Definitely said it.
There you go.
What did I say?
The Giants comeback in the second half against Philadelphia had Adoree Jackson's interception returned for a touchdown, and a fumbled kickoff that was recovered at the 15-yard line by Isaiah Simmons.
I mean,
which was, I don't want to say a gimme touchdown, but you didn't have to do much.
no, they ran 3 plays and gained 14 yards.
And Saquon Barkley ran untouched into the end zone.
Yeah, and I believe all 3 plays were running plays, if I recall. Correct? Yes.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
So, when I hear, and all due respect to Tyrod Taylor, I'm not diminishing his stature as a quarterback or as a leader on this team. But when you talk about the comeback in Philadelphia, the argument that I will not chew on is that he significantly improved the offense in the second half. Because he threw one bomb to
pass.
Slayton.
No, literally, and I think, I don't know, maybe, I might not have said this yesterday, and I did say that yesterday. And I
You did say it.
And I said the same thing on the postgame show on Sunday.
Well, that's good then, because
start
people are
came
not lying now.
From the 2 takeaways. I mean, it came from the takeaway on special teams, which was a great play
2 touchdowns.
by Isaiah Simmons, and then the Adoree Jackson pick six, which was aided by Dallas Goedert slipping.
Okay.
But yeah, that got you to 20-18. Now,
That got you in the game.
and again, this isn't fair to Tyrod, because this isn't how the world or the game works.
Correct.
But if you just take away and I did the math on it, I don't have it in front of me, but I did do the math previously. If you take away the Slayton catch, Tyrod and DeVito stats are almost identical. Their completion percentage, their yardage, they're almost exactly the same. So was that pass beautiful? Was it great? Was that a big difference? Yes. Did Tyrod also short-arm 2 passes to Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller for first downs? Yes.
And he also missed Wan'Dale Robinson.
On that last drive. He airmailed it to him. In fact, I
mean,
think it was probably his least accurate game in all the times I've seen Tyrod play this year, to be honest with you, except for that one pass to Slayton.
I concur. I absolutely concur.
Oh, and I did not bring this up on yesterday's show, by the way, and a lot of fans were really upset about the final. It wasn't really a Hail Mary, but the final throw into the end zone.
Yes.
So I looked it on the All-22.
So did I. I watched it 20 times.
I think I watched it yesterday about 20 times. Went back and forth a million times. So 3 different things happened on the play that I think are worth noting. Okay?
Okay, I have 2, but you could go with 3.
The ball goes in the air, all right? Slayton's coming across in the weak side. Looks like he gets held a little bit. Okay? In my opinion. He's coming off from the right side. He gets grabbed a little bit.
That didn't bother me.
Okay, so that was my third thing.
Okay.
Then, I guess. So
the other 2 are obvious.
Barkley is the back of the end zone.
Absolutely.
Actually, there's 3 other things. I'll take it back. So Barkley gets kind of shoved out of bounds while the ball's in the air, which should technically be a penalty. Barkley does the great, I just took a charge in the NBA, arms flailing, falling back, trying to draw the foul. I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. It was an obvious foul.
What happens on the left sideline, Isaiah Hodgins goes deep.
Thank you.
The Eagle player tries to pull him out of bounds.
Absolutely.
I don't know why Hodgins just stands there and doesn't go for the football. Maybe he knew he stepped out of bounds. I don't know the answer to that.
I think that's what happened.
And then if you touch the ball, folks, after you stepped out of bounds, it's an eligible player.
Correct.
Now, you missed this then.
Okay.
Did you see Darren Waller take the Eagles' defensive back and just throw him to the ground?
I did not see
Yes. He literally grabs him, tosses him backwards, and then goes after the football.
Okay,
So
I didn't see that.
those are the 4 things that I saw. So it probably would have, in the end, if you call everything, they would have been offsetting penalties and we just ran the play again. But those are the 4 things I saw on the All-22 play on the Hail Mary.
Hodgins was running down the left sideline, and he ran a straight pattern directly down the sideline. Yep. As he gets to the end zone, Ringo, number 22, the guy who came off of him to make the pick, he grabs him and rides him the entire length of the end zone and then tries to chuck him out of bounds.
He tries to pull him out of bounds. That's right.
So he's literally grabbing him and riding him the entire length of the end zone. Think about that, folks.
Since Taylor's out of the pocket, he is allowed to push him out of bounds.
Yes.
But you cannot grab and pull. That
Correct.
is defensive holding.
And he literally tries to pull him out. It's hysterical. It's absolutely hysterical. Now, I didn't think the Slayton issue that you're mentioning, I didn't think that was egregious enough. I would have kind of let that fly.
I wouldn't term it as egregious either.
Yeah, that one did not bother me.
But I
did not see the Waller part of the video.
I'm going to try to bring it up.
Okay, I would be very glad to see that. So, but I did see egregious penalties that were taken against Hodgins and against Barkley. I was on the goal line at the time when the play actually happened. And I saw what I saw, and I thought about it, and I said, you know what? Maybe I didn't see it right. I don't know. I'm going to have to wait until I get a chance to look at the video.
And they never really gave a great replay on TV either. On the network broadcast.
No, they did not.
They did not.
So anyway, I didn't really say much to anybody about it. until I wanted to go back because you would never know. Your eyes can deceive you,
Yeah,
John.
you don't know.
Your eyes can deceive you, especially when you're on the goal line.
All right.
You're on the field level. Sometimes you can well, maybe I made a mistake.
All right, so watch Waller here, Paul.
Okay, I'm looking. I'm going to make it
Okay,
full
go
screen
ahead.
for
Go
you
ahead.
here.
Watch Waller.
Go ahead.
Oh, Waller's there.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
go
Watch
ahead.
him. Watch him. Watch
There
him.
he is.
And toss.
Oh, he did. He did. And the official's about 5 yards away from him.
Yes.
He's right there.
So it seems like the officials basically said, all of you,
do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. Which is, at least it was consistent on both sides.
Lance would call that a battle royal.
Yes. But yeah, you get to be on the end zone copy. Look up at the end zone copy.
Yep.
Toss.
There he is. I was so focused on looking at the two Giants players who I felt were infracted upon.
No, and they were.
That I did not look at Waller. So I appreciate you pointing that out to me because, to be fair, that was clearly also a violation. So it was a battle royal in the end zone, and it is what it is. My problem is, I guess, John, because I've had a couple Giants fans.
Well, you must have been hankering to recap this Eagles game because we usually look into the Rams. You went right back into the Eagles game as soon as we
because
started. It's been on his mind. You can tell he's been thinking about this.
Yeah. And you know why? No, let me tell you why.
Why, Paul?
I've had some Giants fans actually say to me, "Oh, should have won that game. We could have won that game." And I'm like, whoa, time out. Okay? My complaint, if you want to have a complaint, if you want to be upset about that Eagles game in Philadelphia, be upset that it wasn't a fair fight. I don't think that your team was afforded the opportunity to steal the game. But the Eagles have a more talented roster.
But you're not just in terms of the last final play of the game you're talking about.
I'm talking about even the penalty called on JMS.
Schmitz, yeah, that wasn't great.
That's a terrible penalty, and it took the Giants right out of a potential scoring drive.
Now remember, we saw that same exact penalty called on Thursday night, 2 weeks prior, on the Steelers punt, and that's something that they have apparently been emphasizing. But yes,
I'm talking about 3 plays before the end of the game. Wan'Dale Robinson gets interfered right in front of me.
I didn't think that was interference.
Wow, everybody on the sideline did.
Well, and it was the Giants sideline.
No, I'm on the Giants sideline, but there are league people there too.
Right.
And they were like, wow. They couldn't believe it.
He wasn't grabbed. That's the problem.
He was knocked over.
Yeah.
He was
hand fighting. I honestly
had a problem with it.
I honestly did not have a problem with that particular call. Watching it on
that one was very offensive to me.
Very offensive.
Very offensive to me. And my feeling was,
you got something, Dom?
My only issue on the play.
You should turn your mic on first.
Yes, that would be a good idea, Dom.
My only issue on the play is that it just looked like the defender never even attempted to get his head around.
Yeah,
he flat out knocked him over.
No,
yeah.
I
don't think he was offended.
I think he fell down.
Paul's words.
I don't know how much he was knocked over.
Yeah, it was the defender's head for me.
No, and that's fair.
So
that's a fair point.
So on the basis of some very significant plays here that could have been called different ways, I feel like, it's a damn shame that the Giants were not afforded a better opportunity to steal the game. But I will not ride the wagon that says they should have won the game or could have won the game. I will simply say that the opportunity was not afforded to them. And the reason I say that is, as I told my dad, how do you know if they had 1st and goal at the 1 on the last play? How do you know they would have gotten in? Just like in Buffalo. You don't know.
And then
they needed 2. How do you know they would have gotten that? And that only would have gotten overtime.
And the Giants haven't exactly been great in short yardage situations over the past.
And that would have set the game to overtime. And you know what? How do you know Philly doesn't get the ball and win the game
you have
anyway?
no idea.
So I won't go that far. But I do think, as I have always said, I wish the games were adjudicated in a much cleaner fashion.
Hey, you know me. I don't like to spend time.
I know you don't.
So
I know you don't, and I appreciate that. I needed to get this out.
I get it. Apparently,
thank
you. Before we get to the calls, I know we got a full bank. Lance and Paul will do the full Rams preview tomorrow, so you guys can check that out for the full Rams preview. How do you view this, Paul, from a big picture perspective? Clearly, the Giants, since the Washington game, have played better football. Right? They're 3-2. They've won some games. They've played closer games. But here's the thing. They have 16 takeaways in those 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously not something you can sustain over the course of the year.
No.
That's a blip. That's something that some good fortune's involved. Other thing is you making some good plays, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how you take that into consideration when you look at the overall quality of play and how much of it has really been shifted by all of those takeaways. Like that New England game, you probably don't win that game if you're not +2 and you have those takeaways. Like it's and again, you can't take those away. That's not the way the league works. That's not what I'm talking about. But you like to judge teams ideally in games to see which one is better on a flat takeaway margin.
Okay. I know where you're going.
You understand what I'm saying, right?
I know where you're going, and you're going right into my spider web.
So then, but my point is that then how do you judge the overall quality of play when takeaways, which we talk about a million times on the show, just sway and shift a game one way or the other? And a lot of times, takeaways are because of what you were doing well, but more times, takeaways are because of what the other team is doing poorly and the mistakes that they make. So I just wonder, and this is something I've been kind of grappling with in my own head over the past month and a half, how much do you judge the improvement of the results based on, is the team really overall playing better, or is it really just a matter of the takeaways?
Yeah. I've been digging into this for several years. It's about the quicksand of mediocrity, John. You have about 20 teams that are in that quicksand of mediocrity, and I say it every single week. Bounces, bad breaks, if you want to say they're the same, officiating calls. These are the kinds of things that will take a team that's climbing out of the quicksand to their belt and then falling back all the way to their chest. That's why we have what we have week to week, is that the league is a quicksand of mediocrity, and there are so many teams that are bunched up in that quicksand that the truth is there's not much difference between the team that's right there on the edge with their hands sticking out and the other team that's got all the way out to their knees. That's what it is. That's the quality of play in this league.
Right.
They call it parity. I call it mediocrity.
I'm going to give you a stat, though. And
That's what it is.
And I think this is the crux of my argument, right? There are 8 teams in the NFL that are +7 in turnover ratio or better, okay? 8 teams. Mm-hmm. The next team after that is +4. So I think that's actually a pretty good tier of teams. There's 3 takeaways separating the Giants from the team that's next to +4, okay? So I'm taking those 8 teams, including the Giants, that are +7 or better, the Giants being +7, okay?
Yeah.
There are 4 teams that are +8 and 3 teams that are +10. So they're all within 3 takeaways of each other. You're in a pretty tight grouping there. The Giants are the only team in that group that's under 500.
Yeah.
And significantly so.
No.
So I you know what I mean? And I think that shows my point that takeaways are so instrumental in helping you win more games. Look at the teams above the Giants. But the Giants, even with that,
right,
takeaway advantage, are still only 5 and 10.
Well, this goes back to
what I'm saying?
Coughlin, who used to tell us, right, teams that were +2 or better in the turnover margin would win over 80% of the games.
Right.
That goes back to the tendency, but it's not foolproof. Mm-hmm. And I think, John, the thing that we talk about a lot here, in fact, Lance really loves to harp on it even more so than we do, is that takeaways need to actually be examined on a takeaway basis, because some are legit takeaways, others are just flukes.
Yes. Yeah, the old Eli Manning, every play has its own story.
Right.
Quote. Yes.
And so to be honest, if we really wanted to dig deep into this and figure out if there's something there to be determined or to chew on,
right,
we'd have to go through every single one of those takeaways for those top 10 teams on the chart and say, okay, how many of them were really takeaways and how many of them were fluke giveaways by the other team?
Well, that's fair, but is it a concern to you that despite the Giants are +7, however they got the takeaways or not, that their record is what it is? So what if they were neutral? What if they were flat on the year, right? What if they were neutral? What would their record be then?
Well, again,
you know what I'm saying?
Again, as I talk about the spider web of the NFL, everything is tied together. It's in this league, it is next to impossible to take one particular element, throw it a bubble, and say, I can make a definitive statement about a team or a player based on what's in that bubble.
Well, hence is why I'm kind of struggling with it in my own head.
And,
right.
And you'll be struggling with that for years to come, because this league will not allow you to make determinations within a bubble. The writers want to tell you that. They'll make a simple statement. They'll make a broad brush statement. But the fact is, Everything in the National Football League is tied together like a spider web, and you cannot take something out of context and make a broad brush statement. It just doesn't work that way in this league.
In fact, the top 12 teams that are all +3 or better are all in and around 500. Is Denver at 500 now, or are they a game below? They might be a game below. But it's Seattle, Indy, Miami, New Orleans, Denver, Giants, Niners, Texans, Bengals, Cowboys, Ravens, Steelers, Bucks. They're one game under the Broncos. So all those teams are one game under 500 or better that are at least +3 in turnover ratio. So,
Total out-of-the-box question.
yes.
How many of the teams ahead of the Giants in turnover ratio have lost their franchise quarterback for at least half the season?
Oh, no, that's true. Absolutely. That's fair.
That's, again, you start putting things into context and add those things.
No.
And all
one
of a
is
sudden,
one is Joe Burrow.
okay, well, there's always going to be
Steelers have
outliers.
lost Kenny Pickett.
There's going to be outliers.
Right.
There are
I
going to
got
be
you.
outliers, which is why you can't make the broad brush statement, because there will be outliers, and context means everything in this league.
Right.
That's why I love it so much.
All right, let's get to the phones. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. You're listening to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac,
was
the
fun.
official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Sorry it took me so long. In fact, Dom, I don't even have the caller thing up right now. Can you just give me heads up who the first caller is, and then I'll bring it up? Phil in North Carolina? Phil, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for the
Hi.
show today.
Yes, thanks for calling in, Phil. What do you got?
So a couple of things. One is I'm a big believer in developing a winning culture, winning attitude, and we didn't have that for a decade, and I'm afraid we're slipping back into it.
Why do you say that?
Because I feel like we've let a lot of games, kind of fall away. Like that, we had opportunity. The Jet game was a massive disaster, and the Buffalo game, and this game, and those would all put us at more of a 500, at least a 500.
Yeah, but Phil, you are not going to win every single close game like you did last year. I mean, you won the Patriots game that was really tight. You won the first Cardinals game that was really tight. And was there another tight game early on in the season that I'm forgetting?
No.
So you have won close games this year, and you've lost close games this year. This is generally how NFL seasons go.
Yeah, the issue with this league and what they are very proud. They will tell you this because they constantly pump this stat out every single season. It's been this way now for a number of years. They love to tell you how many games were decided at the end of the game by one touchdown or less.
Yeah, and the first Commanders game was only a one-score game too. That was a close game.
And then they will power home. Look at the parity in our league. Everybody has a chance. We have so many percentage of games that were decided by a field goal or less.
And the Packer game, that went down to the end too. So you won plenty of close ones.
This is what the league, pushes. They love the fact that they can get as many close finishes as absolutely possible. So to John's point, if the league has a preponderance of games that are going to be decided by one score or less, mathematics tell you that there's some years you'll win some of those, other years you'll win a ton of them, and then other years you might break even with those. That's just the way it is when everybody's in the quicksand.
So right now the Giants this year are actually 4-3 in one-score games. So they're better than they're over 500.
Okay, so I agree with you too that you're going to get close to that 500 period, which is my point actually, in that statistically we've been way under 500 for the decade.
Well, but that's because you have a lot of blowout losses. That's not because you're losing close games. It's because you're getting blown out in games. That's the problem. Yeah. The problems are the blowouts against the Dolphins, the blowout against the Niners, the two blowouts against Dallas, the blowout against Las Vegas, the blowout against New Orleans. That's the problem.
They had a handful.
It's not the close games that are the issue. It's getting waxed by the top teams in the league. That's the problem.
Handful of games this year that were just absolutely, terrible.
Not
That's just the bottom line. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's what really, if you get down to it, Really?
That's been the most disappointing part
That's
of the year.
yes.
No question.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Because, and of course, there are reasons for those things. We've discussed them here.
Of course.
Every
million
single
times.
show. There are a million reasons for them. But those are the losses that are like, holy smokes, how does that happen?
And there's been too many of those.
In July,
I
none
don't
of us
disagree.
thought those were going to happen. Okay? None of us
I don't
thought.
disagree. Yeah, but I guess I still feel like winning is developing a culture, and I'm afraid that we're slipping away from that. So, okay, my other point is that was there any explanation on that 18-second debacle with from the league on
You mean
when Waller?
Yeah, when Barkley had to run the ball into the official. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
crazy.
another problem. But we didn't even discuss that before.
That had nothing to do with the league.
It had nothing to do with the league, but the official, literally, Barkley had to rip the ball out of the official's hand and run it back to the line of scrimmage so that the guy could place the ball down for the next snap.
Didn't they
I've
hand
never
it to
seen
the
anything,
official
and I'm
first?
an old
No,
man.
it was
I've
terrible.
never seen anything
Go back
like
and watch
that.
it. It's terrible.
No, didn't Slayton and Barkley take it out of Waller's hands?
Yeah, but when the side official on the sideline has the ball.
But how did he get the ball?
Well, Waller flipped it.
No, Waller
that's
gave
the
him
problem.
Yeah, but he had to.
No, you bring it to the middle of the field.
No, he was hurt.
So, dude, I literally saw it on the TV copy. He goes down. Barkley and Slayton are on top of him trying to take the ball to run it to the middle of the field.
And the referee on the sideline, you can watch it. The referee on the sideline has the ball, and Barkley
yes,
rips
but
it out of
how
his
did
hands.
he get the ball?
Well, because Waller thought he
gave-
Well, then that's the
Waller gave him the ball.
problem.
Well, he thought he was coming off the field.
But you can't.
Here's what happened. I talked to Waller after the game. Waller got hurt
No, I know.
on the play.
We had it on the
right?
postgame show. I heard it.
He thought he was going to come off the field.
Yes.
But the sideline screaming at him, they know that it's a 10-second runoff if he does.
He needs to give it.
So they want to keep him on the field.
Okay,
So
great.
Barkley looks at the official. They get him the ball. They get the official the ball on the sideline.
But that's the problem.
'Cause he's
You do
right
not
there.
No, but that's the problem. You do not give the ball to the official on the sideline. And Kafka and Dable said this week. You run it to the middle of the field to the hash mark.
But at that point, Waller was still trying to process what to do. That official on the sideline, in my opinion, should have then taken the ball and thrown it right to the guy to spot the ball.
You don't want the officials to throw it.
Or
they're taught not to throw.
You're
Because
right.
if it's a bad
you're
throw,
right.
it bounces
You're right.
and it bounces
You're
away.
right. You're right. He should have sprinted and given the ball to the other official. Instead, Barkley's like, "What are you doing?" He grabs it back from him and he runs it to the official.
Well, they should have run it. UC teams run it to the middle of the field every game. You do not give it to the
That's
sideline
what you're supposed to
official.
do. Unfortunately, it was a difficult circumstance for
No,
Waller
and I'm not saying
because
it's
he
Waller's
was in a
fault.
bad spot.
He was hurt.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's Waller's fault, but it's not the official's fault.
I think it could have been done a little quicker, and it probably would have saved them one more snap.
Something tells me the official's probably not that fast.
Yeah, maybe not.
Just to be fair, the official's probably
I
not
have
that
another
fast.
one-liner that I'd love to throw out now, but I'm not going to do it.
Did you see the official in the Ravens 49er game? You know, these are top-tier athletes we're talking about here. And again, and you know me, I defend officials all the time. I have a great respect for what they do, but you know, these aren't, Olympic athletes where you're going to get the ball to the middle of the field quickly.
Which I have not brought this up in a long time, but when George Young became VP of NFL operations and he used to sit next to me in the press box for Giants home games, I told George the best thing you could do for your officiating in this league is to recruit college players who aren't good enough to make it into the league and tell them you too can have a career as an official if you want to stay in football, because those guys have played the game, okay? And if they played it, they're also athletic.
Of course, you actually want to do the job, which is kind
Oh,
of a big
well,
part of it.
make it attractive for them to do it. Let me tell you something. I would love to see former Power 5 safeties and corners and receivers become officials if they can't make it in the league. I'd love to see them become officials because I think they would do a better job.
Phil, I'm sorry. We completely hijacked this call from you.
We
Go
did.
ahead.
I apologize.
No. It's good, guys. I appreciate the conversation, but I did one thing more on the Waller thing. It would have been better off for us if he did walk off the field and have the 10-second runoff, because we wasted 18 seconds instead of 10 seconds.
I think it went from 18 seconds to 4 seconds, right? So it was 14 seconds off the clock, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
14. We would have saved 4 seconds, but so, Okay, thanks, guys.
No, thank you, Phil.
Bye.
Appreciate the call. Yeah, again, I'm not blaming Waller for that. The guy was injured. He was hurt.
Yeah, there's nothing Waller could have done
was
about
hurt.
it.
He was feeling pain. He got, to quote him, I think he said I got lit up on my back.
And he was
whatever
trying to
said.
process what to do.
No, again, I'm not blaming
You
Waller,
know.
but the official can't use the force and transport the ball from
No,
the
you're right.
sideline to the middle of the field.
They are supposed to run it and hand it to each other. They're not supposed to
the
throw
last
it.
thing you
make
want
a
is those
good
guys
point.
trying to catch.
You make a very good point. They're supposed to run it to each other, and they're not supposed to chuck it.
Right, which is why,
That's
and
a fair
Kafka
point.
did say, maybe you had walked away by the time he said it today. Kafka said, look, the goal is after that, as a player, you run it to the
Yes.
hash mark, let the official then touch it so the center
Correct.
can then snap it.
Well,
That
which is
what the
which
what you're
of course
supposed to do.
is the situation that happened at the end of the Giants-Jets game.
Right, and I'm sure Waller would have done it if his back didn't feel like it was cut in two, but he got
It was,
whacked.
Yeah,
He got whacked. What are you gonna do?
I felt the
Bad
pain
luck.
when I was on the sideline. I felt it.
It's bad luck. To me, that's a bad luck situation. That's not like in anybody's fault situation. Waller, I guess the best thing he could have done was just hand it to Barkley and Slayton and then let them run it to the middle of the field. But
I guess so.
I guess that would have been the
I
best
don't
thing
know.
to do.
I don't know.
All right, let's go to Scott in New Mexico. He's up next. Scott, what's going on? And welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Hi, guys. First of all, I wanted to wish you a happy holidays.
You too.
We have a tendency sometimes to look through the Giants in rose-colored glasses, and I do the same thing myself. In regards to the referees, before I get to my main point, if they called every penalty that actually occurs in a game, they probably take 7 hours for a game. And so it doesn't really matter. As Paul said, it is what it is in regards to the referees. But my main points are more troubling, I think, and maybe you can address them. I'm talking about basic fundamentals, tackling, passing, getting the right players in. The Giants this year have not beat a winning team. I think Green Bay
Packers are now
6-7.
under 500, so yes, that is correct.
Right, so no winning teams at all. They're third worst, I think, against the run, and they're scoring at about 14 points, which is much worse than last year.
Yep.
But
Not
I'm
good.
talking about, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said not good. Correct.
Right, not
Just
good.
remember one thing, Scott. In most years, you will get several playoff teams who go into the postseason having not had a victory against a winning team.
That's true.
That's the formula for success in the quicksand. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and you'll get into the playoffs. That's the mantra.
Yeah, you're right.
So please take that one out of your calculation.
No, but I think
Okay.
I think to an extent it does show you how good your team is, though.
Correct.
Because the last 2 years, the Giants have beaten one playoff team.
Well, again, get into the tournament, and the Giants have had 2 9-7 teams win a Super Bowl.
Yes,
just
but-
get into the tournament.
Yes, but Paul, in those seasons, they showed they could play with really good teams.
Yes, they
during the
did.
regular season.
Yes, they did.
Right?
Yes,
Right.
they did.
Yeah.
So my main point is this. Since you have a bank of calls, I'll keep it as short as I can.
Yes.
The fundamentals, again. There's been a lack of tackling. Nobody tackles well. The special teams has been awful. The getting receivers in, especially a person like Jalen Hyatt, on the field has been non-existent.
I don't know. I don't understand what you mean by your last statement. What do you mean getting
Okay,
him on the field?
well, Jalen Hyatt was a second draft choice, and he obviously is a burner. And he can run patterns. When I saw him run patterns, he could do it. I don't know why he's not playing more.
Scott, he's playing plenty of snaps.
But he's not getting the ball. That's
Okay,
the
well,
point.
no, but that's different than him not being on the field.
Right.
It is.
Well,
and I'm going to debate you right now about your special teams comment.
Okay.
For most of the season, the Giants have been in top 3 in punt coverage. Nick McLeod has had a terrific year. In fact, he's second in the Pro Bowl voting. Not that means a lot, but they're only giving up 6 yards per punt return. They're doing a hell of a job. They gave up a bad one the other day.
Where are they on net?
But
in terms
but
of
they're doing
punts?
very well. I'll look that up for you.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Since Olszewski has been back there on kickoff returns, he's solid. His punt returns are solid. We know that Gano is a great kicker, and then he got hurt, and he
Right.
tried to kick hurt, and they've gone through 5 kickers. So before you say that the special teams has been bad, you need to take a couple of asterisks there and put them there because
I do.
That's
And I agree
not
with you,
that
Paul,
is
but-
not a clean statement.
Right, and I might agree with you, but just from the outward appearance, it doesn't look like they're playing as well as, say, they played last year. But here's the point, because I know you have other
Scott,
calls.
I don't know about that. I thought the special teams this year have been better than last
Much
year.
better than they
to be
were
honest
last
with
year.
you.
Well,
Much better.
It doesn't appear to my eye to be so, but you might be
I
right.
mean, Jamie Gillen's certainly better this year than
Jamie
he was
Gillen's
last year.
having a career season.
Well, I'm talking about the kinds of plays where somebody gets hit and not aware where the football is, and obviously somebody recovers that, or the block punt in the first game against
No,
Dallas,
look,
where somebody
Scott,
missed their
the
assignment,
biggest,
that kind of thing.
yo, Scott, you're right. The biggest, to me, smudge on the record of the special teams this year is their protection on some of these kicks have not been what you want them to be.
Right.
Guys are getting through way too easy on some of those plays. That, I think, is fair. Paul, you
So
agree with that?
here's my point that I want to make. And then I'll get off the air. Here's the point I want to make. When the Giants, as you've already mentioned, have been vulnerable to the stunts and twists and haven't been able to do that since the first game of the season. Do coaches ever get together? For example, and it's all relative to the personnel they have on the field, does a coach like Bobby Johnson get together with Mike Hopkins and say, hey, this guy on the line may be susceptible to this guy making an inside move or something like that, and they discuss ways to negate that kind of stuff? Does that go on to the coaches as far as culpability with what's happening with the offensive line? And how much do the coaches themselves, try to negate those kinds of situations? And that was my main question.
Thank
In
you.
other words, do the coaches really actually get together and discuss these issues? And thanks again, guys.
Appreciate it. I mean, you can't negate stunts and twists.
No.
I mean, you can't. This isn't a situation where you're talking about a defensive back or even a wide receiver or a tight end or a running back where you can switch formationally or positionally where you line up your offensive linemen to try to negate stunts and twists. I mean, they have to line up where they line up. It's their position.
Mm-hmm.
And then the defense is going to dictate who they attack with those stunts and twists. That's how it works. So you can't negate a guy being exposed to it. If a team wants to expose an offensive lineman to a stunt or
They'll
a twist,
find a way
they're
to do
going
it.
to. And there's nothing you can do about it.
No doubt about it.
And look, they coach up blocking that. They have full sessions and periods in practice during training camp where all they do is have the defense run stunts and twists against the Giants' offensive line, and the offensive line tries to block them. Like, they practice it all the time. They just have had issues doing that this year and the last few years.
Yeah,
They need to get better at it.
There's no other answer.
And it's fairly
There's
consistent,
really no other
Paul.
answer.
When they face teams
I
that even
know.
have good pass rushers and they just do straight pass rushes,
I know.
they do okay. Like, they were okay against the Eagles. Now, a lot of that was mitigated by some of the quick throws and wide receiver screens early in the game. But they're significantly better every week against teams that run less of those. And unfortunately, the Rams, once again, are like top 6 or 7 in the league in terms of stunts and twists.
This goes back into that whole dig deeper kind of thing that we were talking about with some of the issues earlier. I don't have, well, I guess I have the ability, I just don't have the time to do it. I would love to go through every single team's offensive line package and look at every single sack that they've given up and then quantify how many of them were stunts. I'd love to do that. I guess I could go through the all 22 of every single game that was played this year and find every single sack and see what percentage of sacks every team has given up due to stunts. I'm not of peace of mind to do that.
Yeah, good luck. Have fun with that.
I know. But that would be a great exercise.
I gotta think.
It would be a great exercise to do.
Let me see if I could figure out a way to sort that through one of my multiple statistical engines that I use. Let me think if I can figure out a way to do that.
I mean, that would be a fascinating thing to see because we always sit here and talk about how the Giants have a lot of trouble with stunts. Well, that's true. I wonder where their sack stunt percentage ranks in regards to the rest of the league. Because I got a hunch there's a bunch of people in other NFL cities saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
We can't deal with stunts.
Well, that's why teams run them, right?
Bingo.
All right, let me see if I can figure
Just a
this
thought.
out as
Just a
I
thought.
take a call here. By the way, go subscribe to the Giants Huddle Podcast. It's brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. A lot of good stuff up there right now. My interview with Sean O'Hara's on there from yesterday. Go check it out. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, Giants app, giants.com/podcast. Same for other podcasts. Draft season is up and running. We go every week. A lot of good episodes up there. Tony Poli and I break down the draft class. And Giants Hangout. We'll have a next episode up there today as well with our round tables. All right, let's go back to the phones and go to Dan in the Poconos. Dan, what's going on, pal?
What's going on, John? How you doing, Paul?
Hi.
Oh, great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to talk to you guys. And I just wanted to put it out there, John. I know another caller did the other day, but I've been with you since day one, too, with the whole crew. So when Charlie used to call every freaking day.
I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you.
You guys are the best, especially. I know you don't want to talk about the draft, but, I get...
No, you can. Hey, look, we only have 2 games left. If you want to do draft now, I can live with it, okay?
Yeah, no,
I can live with it.
I really don't.
Just remember, we don't know where they'll be picking.
Yes, so we have a much better idea where they'll be picking
Little
now
bit.
than we did before.
Little bit.
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
You guys are crazy. Anyway, I was just going to say your show and your content is just like you don't need to go anywhere else. I know who the players are. I don't go to NFL Network. I'll see these guys playing for Cleveland or Indianapolis. I'll be like, oh, okay, I remember this guy. We were talking about him on the show and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I just got a little bit of a gripe with Coach Dable. You know how you guys were talking at the beginning of the show about you made your points about it, and I agree how that they should leave Tommy in there just to evaluate him a little more. But then, Paul, you said maybe they've seen enough. Maybe they've made their decision. They know
Maybe
what
they have.
got, this and that.
We don't know that.
Yeah,
but
right.
Maybe they have.
But my little gripe I have is like how even yesterday's show Madeline was talking about, and I forget who was on with her. But how the players are going to play their lives out, right? They want to put on tape. If they're not playing for the Giants next year, maybe somebody else. So they're going to play their asses off.
Yeah.
And the coaches, you see, sometimes I struggle getting my point across. I feel like it's in the players' best interest to play good. It's in Coach Dable's best interest to win. But is it in the overall, future of our team's best interest, to win that game? Not to tank it, of course, but you know what I'm saying?
No, Dan, I completely understand. I completely understand your question, but unfortunately, I think because of the first part of your caveat there, it's almost an irrelevant question. Even if it was, you still can't do it.
Yeah, huh?
You see,
You know what I'm saying?
I'll throw another piece of ham on this
myself,
sandwich for you.
And yes, and by the way, if you could say your young players all get better, you play good football, and all your young guys are pointing up, and everything goes well, your guys are healthy, would you rather win 1 game than 5 games, but all those other boxes get checked? Yeah, of course. You get the great draft pick, and all your young players are playing well, and your guys are healthy, and it's great. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
No.
Because if you win 1 or 2 games instead of 5 or 6, it probably means a lot of your young guys are playing crappy.
Right.
Which means a lot of your future cornerstone players you think you have in your roster are not going to be those guys. So you can't, in that way, you can't have it both ways.
Correct.
You know what I mean, Dan?
And that's why it's important to win every game, especially when you have a young roster. I've seen so many different times this year, the announcers talk about the Giants have like one of the top 3 in terms of youngest rosters, in terms of their core of anybody in the league. Well, I've been saying to John for years, and we've had debate about this at times. I think it's different if you got a team that is one of the oldest in the league, and a lot of the guys aren't coming back, and the team's got to be totally scrapped and rebuilt. Maybe there's not as much value in winning the last 3 or 4 games of your season when you're already out of it. But when you have a young team that still has young, impressionable guys who are trying to improve every day, who are trying to learn what it's like to try to win games, who are trying to figure out how can they get better, there's value in that. There is tremendous value in that.
And also, Dan, if you only won 1 or 2 games, the chance of having to have turnover again at the coaching position and the front office position, that becomes greater. That sets your franchise back more. So you can't just lose more games in a vacuum. It has other bad consequences.
There you go, the spider web, John.
That are in addition to the benefit of having a higher draft pick. You understand what I'm saying?
You can't take
Yeah,
it out of
yeah.
context.
Right.
That's the point.
Exactly.
Right.
You can't do it.
I hear you. Well, thanks, fellas. Thanks for your insight. I always appreciate talking to you guys.
Thank you, Dan.
Be well.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
call. All right, we have one more caller left. Want to do the caller, and then I think I found your stat.
Okay.
All right, so let's do our final caller first. Let's go to Randy in California, and then I'll give Paul his stats on stunts and twist. What do you got, Randy?
Are you guys stunting and twisting online now? Is that what you guys are doing? Are you doing some kind of hula?
We always want to try to keep everyone on their toes, Randy.
Oh, my.
Anyway, happy New Year, guys.
You too,
I
buddy.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, I have just two quick questions. One, on the expiring one-year contracts, if you're Shane, do you know which ones you would probably try to keep and let go?
You mean
if you were him?
in terms of the players that are going to become free agents?
Right. We signed them on like 1-year deals and, kind of like just stopgaps, right? Do you know what players do you think you might get rid of?
I mean, I think it all depends on price and cost, right? I think that's a big part of it. I can
Huge
tell you
part of
of
it.
the guys that are 1-year deals, I think Ashawn Robinson has been wonderful this year. Mm-hmm. I think he's been
Right.
great against the run. If you can get him on the right number, I would love to have him back here. That's just one guy I'll throw at you. If you have any questions about specific guys, we're happy to answer them.
Right. No, I was just talking about the 1-year deals. You know what I mean? The guys that have been here on 1-year contracts, like Shep. And it's time to start moving on for some of these players.
Well, I'll
and
tell
get
you
some
what.
youth in there.
I'm bringing back Saquon Barkley, if at all possible. I'm bringing back Isaiah
Okay.
Simmons, if at all possible. All right, I'll make that real simple for you. I'm bringing back Casey Kreider, who's on a 1-year deal.
You've
He'll
been
be on 1-year deals for the next 10 years. I'll keep bringing him back.
You've been that happy with Simmons?
Yes. I like what he does within their scheme. They don't necessarily use him like I thought they would. I thought he'd be a heavy blitzer. I still think that's the best way for him.
See, there's
But
still
they don't do that.
There are too many times in zone coverage where he gets lost for me.
It's okay.
Yeah, but I think
I'd
he'd be
bring him
better as a
back.
pass rusher. I'd put his hand in the dirt and let him get after it.
Well, no. I don't want his hand in the dirt now. I want him standing up, but I do want
Standing
him.
up?
I do want him coming forward.
Yeah,
And I don't think they send him forward enough.
And again,
That's just my opinion.
And I'd be
Right.
fine bringing him back as long as it was at a very low
Yeah,
cost. you have him
and
in a
one
specific
more.
role.
But those are
Yeah,
just
and
a
one more-
handful of guys who I would bring
Sure.
back.
And one more quick thing. We keep talking about the Eagles being this and that and how good they were last year, right? But is everybody missing that they had a weak schedule just like we did too?
Yeah, they also
How much
were
of that
like,
was how much of that was overinflated from their schedule because they had an easy schedule last year with a little bit better talent than we did. So you could say the same thing about us, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, we made the playoffs as the South.
They made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but they had a weak schedule going towards it. I mean, they had an easy schedule through the season. Right?
I understand that, but they lost 2 games and they went to the Super Bowl, and this year they have 11 wins again. So I mean, I mean,
No,
Yeah.
the Eagles are not the same team this year that they were last year.
No.
But don't take away
Right.
from the quality of the team Philadelphia was last year. They were a dominant team.
Just again,
Yeah,
there
every year they get
there
their
is a
win
very
clip.
small collection of teams that does not have to bathe in the quicksand.
Thank
and
you,
they're one
Randy.
of them.
Appreciate it.
That's
Good
it.
stuff.
They're one of them.
And yeah, was the Eagles' regular season record probably a little inflated last year because of the
Sure.
record? Yeah, sure, that's fine.
But
They would have won. They would have lost 4 games instead of 2. Right? Whatever.
they're still on the top shelf of teams in the league.
Though they've slid down this year. They have slid down this year.
They have fallen half a step, but they're still up there in that area.
Yes, they are. Okay.
Yeah, what do you got?
So I have on plays with stunts. Mm-hmm. I have percent pressure rate allowed and sack rate allowed. Are those the 2 numbers you're looking for?
I think that would be really good.
Okay. Which one do you want first? Sacks or pressures?
Go with the pressure one first.
Pressures first. Okay. So
Where do the Giants rank in terms of the league there?
third to last. So they've allowed pressure on 54% of the snaps in which other teams have run a stunt.
Okay, so we have evidence now that is legitimately a worse problem here than it is in other places.
2 teams are worse. The Titans, 0.6 worse, and then the Bears, who are 1.5% worse.
Okay.
So
Now
that's
go
where
to
that
the sack
stands. And
number.
just to give you an idea, the best team in the league is at 37%. So there's a 16%, or if you want to go from top to bottom, an 18% swing from top of the league to bottom of the league.
That's a substantial number.
It is. Sack percentage. And by
Okay.
the way, just to give you an idea, teams' pressure rates, so the Giants' overall pressure rate allowed with stunts is at 53%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overall, if you include all defensive plays, it's
Right.
at 44%.
Which shows you how much better they are.
And if you look at
against
with
non-stunts.
out stunts, they're at 40%. So that's where they're at, and they are still third to worst, even when teams
Yeah,
don't.
well.
No, but even when teams don't run stunts.
Yeah. We
They're
know
still
that
third to worst.
the line has had
Yes.
problems
All
all
right.
season. We
Sack
know
rate.
that, but the stunt thing is really enlightening. I'm glad that somebody has kept that.
It's your really good friends at Pro Football Focus, so I know you will just love their analytics.
I don't
know.
enjoy their
I'm kidding.
analysis.
I
I
know.
enjoy their data sometimes.
No, their data is, and that's how I like to use their data. So, sack rate. Giants have by far the highest sack rate allowed in the league on plays where there are stunts.
Well, there you go then.
17%. The team next last is 2% away from them at 15%. So there's a 2% swing from the Giants to the next worst team,
And
which
that
is
is
the
who?
Titans. The
Titans.
Titans. And then the teams at the top are at around 4 or 5%. So that is a huge swing. That's 3 times the number of sacks allowed on stunts compared to the teams at the top of the league. That's a big number.
Now there's a case where you have pure raw data. We don't need any analysis with this, folks. No mayonnaise, no mustard, no ketchup. We have pure raw data, and it answers a question that says, hey, you know what? What we've been thinking for most of the time is accurate. Stunts for the Giants are a bigger problem than they are for other teams around the league.
No, without a stunt.
We now know that.
Without a stunt, it's even worse. So with those stunts, the Giants are 3% worse than the next team, which is also the Titans.
Oh, boy.
And they're at 11.9%. The teams at the top of the league are at 3 and 4%. So it's about 3.5 times. So
Okay.
the spread's actually somewhat similar. So bottom line, with or without stunts, pass protection needs to be better.
Something that we all kind of figured out very early in the season.
But the pressure and sack rates allowed with stunts is worse than without.
Now,
so they do have more trouble. Which, by the way, every team is worse against stunts than they are against no stunts. So that's
Now,
just kind of the way the league works.
to finish off the comment and
Yes.
to put it in proper context.
And to wrap the show.
Yeah, indeed, we'll do that too. Again, this is a season-long total that you're giving us.
That's season long. That's correct.
They were missing their starting left tackle for quite a while. They had
Probably it wouldn't affect stunts much, but
not
yes,
much.
Correct.
Not much.
Stunts and twists.
Not much. But that does impact the left guard spot.
Yeah, but the guards and centers are changing for half the year.
Correct.
Every week.
They were changing almost all the time. I was
Correct.
going down the line.
Yes.
Left tackle, left guard, center's a rookie, having a good rookie season, but he's a rookie, and rookies do make mistakes. Right guard, which is probably, Glowinski and Bredesen have both played right guard, right?
And McKeithen, I think, for a couple
McKeithen
games,
had a little
right?
bit in there too. So that's also been a carousel. And the right tackle, we know how injured he's been, and he's missed a ton of games. So in context, yes, the data is legit. There's no question. It proves the point that they have had a difficult time. In context, we can certainly point to reasons why. And that's all I've got for today.
Everybody, thanks for being with us. Go to Giants.com/tickets, by the way, if you want to go check out a Giants game, the last couple of games of the year, and also go download the Giants TV, the Giants official streaming app, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, all those other things. Go check that out and download. You've been listening to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Paul and Lance will be back with you tomorrow at 12:30 to give their full diagnostic preview of the Rams and Giants matchup. We'll talk to you then.